What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. As always, I'm your co-host Donovan Quick, and today we're going to be going over the initial 53-man roster, all the surprising, heartbreaking cuts, and what we can expect in the coming days, because as we all know, this is the NFL. This is not going to last too long. All right, so we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to go with the Dolphins graphics because this is what they gave us to work with. So quarterbacks, we already kind of knew what was going on there. Tua Tagovailoa, Skylar Thompson are your QBs. Running backs and fullbacks, Achane, Ingold, Mostert, Wilson, and Jalen Wright. Not really any surprises there. Maybe Chris Brooks I had making the roster. He ended up not being there. I did have most of my 53-man roster predictions correct. I'll explain what they were as we go through. But yeah, Chris Brooks being cut there along with McFarland. No surprise McFarland was cut. Brooks kind of on the bubble. He did really good things. He was waived injured, so there is a possibility he could be brought back if he doesn't get picked up to the practice squad. We'll see what happens. Hopefully he comes back. We'll see about it. Wide receivers is where it gets a little bit surprising. We're only keeping 4 wide receivers on roster. We did put River Craycraft on IR like I predicted, designating him to return giving him the designation to allow him to return. We're only allowed to do that for 2 players. I'll go over the next one as we get to it. But yeah, he was one of them that we put on there. We did waive Eric Ezukama. That was the first heartbreaker that I had in this list so far, and I don't get it. I really don't. I don't see the mentality behind going into the season with only 4 receivers, but that does open the door for other options. And I did say in a couple of videos now that, look, it was unlikely that Odell was going to start the season on the roster. He was going to be on the PUP, which ended up happening. I thought we were going to go into the season with 5 receivers and end up looking for one in free agency, waivers, etc. And I still expect us to do that, because to only go in with 4 receivers, being that 3 of them are banged up currently, and it's our top 3 receivers that are banged up. Yeah, not too excited about that. So I do expect us in the coming days to be bringing in a receiver. I would be on the lookout for guys like maybe Tim Patrick, or even John Mechie has been on the trade block for the Texans. John Mechie played at Alabama, Tua, Alabama, Waddle, Alabama. You know, they may have that connection. So be on the lookout for that. Mechie is on the block. He's their 4th or 5th stringer right now behind obviously Diggs, Tank Dell, Nico, and maybe even Brandon Cooks. So yeah, he's way down, buried on that depth chart. Throw him a 4th round pick, 5th round pick. Mechie looked good in preseason. I'd take a chance on him. He was a 1st round pick, 2nd round pick for a reason, you know. Tight ends. The only real surprise here should be that Tanner Conner earned himself a spot. And honestly, if you've been paying attention, it's not that big of a surprise. Like, yeah, he didn't play in the last 2 preseason games because of an injury, but he was the only bright spot of that first preseason game on offense, like, at all. And that's kind of what I said about Eric Ezukama. He ended up being cut anyway. But I did predict in my 53-man roster prediction video that he was going to be initially cut and then possibly brought back after some guys went on IR. That could not be designated to return before the 53, so they would be designated to return after the 53. So yeah, Tanner Conner is one of those guys. He did make the roster back in 2022 as a UDFA, then was cut last year at the 53, brought onto the practice squad, ended up being out for the year after an injury, and you know, he did enough to earn himself a spot here. Offensive line, I got most of this correct as well. Teron Armstead, Aaron Brewer, Lester Cotton, Jack Driscoll, Liam Eichenberg, Austin Jackson, Robert Jones, Kendall Lamb, and Patrick Paul. Now, the only surprise I really have here is Andrew Meyer, and it really has come out over the past, or Mayer, I apologize, over the past couple of days that this guy is a true center. And after Liam Eichenberg, so you have Aaron Brewer, Liam Eichenberg, and then Andrew Mayer. After Liam Eichenberg, who has an injury history, and Aaron Brewer, which we don't know the extent of his injury just yet, there is no one I really trust there. Like, Jack Driscoll had a decent preseason game against, you know, 2s and 3s and maybe some 4s. But then when he went against a true number one defense with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like true number ones on the field, Vita Vea put him on his backside. And now, given I gave him the benefit of the doubt, he'd never played center before this offseason, and it was Vita Vea. Like, one of the best defensive tackles, if not the best in the league. Jack Driscoll just got put on his absolute behind. And one thing I've been saying, and it's been for a couple years now, for centers that aren't true centers, Liam Eichenberg, Aaron Brewer, Jack Driscoll, the reason that they're so good in the run game but not the pass game is because of leverage. When you're passing when you're in pass protection, you have to snap the ball and get back up but maintain your forward lean. And a lot of these defensive tackles nowadays in the NFL, if you get one little misstep or even a second slower to get up, they're going to attack you. Connor Williams did a very good job when he was here, but that's what I saw with Liam Eichenberg when he filled in for Connor Williams. That was a big thing. If you noticed, Tua couldn't step up in the pocket in the end of the season because Liam Eichenberg kept getting pushed back into him. Leverage is a huge thing in pass protection, especially for centers. If you're not able to get back up quick enough and get into your pass protection, I don't care how good of a blocker you are. If you're not able to get your leverage and your feet set, you're screwed. It just is what it is. So it is a good sign to see Andrew Mayer, a true center, make this roster, even if it is as a UDFA. This actually marks the third year in a row that a UDFA has made this roster. I maybe longer streak than that, but yeah, obviously we know Kader Kohu a couple seasons ago. Last year we had Ethan Bonner. We had a couple of them last year, I think, actually. Oh, Julian Hill was one last year. Duh. All right, so yeah, well, we're gonna head over to the defense now. So at defensive line, this is exactly what I predicted, actually, because I said, listen to the coaches, listen to the players. They're going to tell you what you're not seeing. And a lot of them were praising Brandon Peely, praising Deshaun Hand. You saw Brandon Peely in the first depth chart release, bottom of the depth chart. Second depth chart release, he's at the top of the depth chart. He's in the second string. That should tell you, like, hey, this guy's got fucking good. Excuse my language. He's kind of good. Like, pay attention. Then you have Deshaun Hand, which, honestly, if you told me Deshaun Hand, Isaiah Mack, Jonathan Harris, if you told me Neville Gallimore, if you told me any of those guys were going to make it and the other three weren't, I would have said, yeah, okay. Because they all do different things well, but they're all kind of like the same ceiling of talent level, if you know what I mean. But obviously, Deshaun Hand does something that the Dolphins value slightly more than those guys. I would be on the lookout to see if any of those guys do end up on our practice squad. Probably more Isaiah Mack, I would lean. He was a UDFA, if I'm not mistaken, actually. He had a really good preseason, a really good offseason in general. And, just lost to Deshaun Hand. And Deshaun Hand was here for a little bit last year. Just something to, snark at. Now, I will say, I love getting the linebacker group 100% correct, especially with it just all being just how many players is that? I got it 100% correct. Quentin Bell is going to be your third, fourth, fifth string as the season starts. Jordan Brooks, your starter opposite of David Long. Mohamed Kamara also going to be on the outside. Emmanuel Ogbah going to be starting opposite Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips, who knows if he's going to be starting the season or not, but once he is, he's obviously starting. Duke Riley probably going to be your third or fourth string middle linebacker. Chop Robinson probably going to be your second, maybe starter to begin the season, depending on Jalen Phillips. Channing Tindall was the major question mark as if he was going to make the roster or not. I thought he showed enough in that last preseason game that, like, yeah, this is what we saw when we drafted him. This is what we needed from you. he had over 10 tackles in under 3/4 a play. Like that was enough to be like, yeah, your tackling ability is showing, your speed is showing, your decisiveness is finally showing. Like, where was this the first 2 years of your career? I don't know, but I really like seeing it from him. Anthony Walker, obviously I had him making it. I do think he is a possibility to go on IR once this 53 is settled in. I'm not sure exactly when we can do it, like what the time period is now that the 53 is set that we can put people on IR. Anthony Walker is a candidate for that. Like I said before, you're only allowed to put 2 players on IR before the 53, and the initial 53 is set, and then bring them back. Like, you can designate them to come back. And Anthony Walker was not one of them, but he was a candidate to be one of them. So it tells me bring him on to the initial 53, put him on IR, and then bring someone back. Maybe a receiver, because we only have 4. So that's what I was talking about there. On to the cornerbacks. This is where my second heartbreaker comes in. And this one really dug deep. This one really hurt because I made a really passionate video. Nick Needham. Brother, I'm sorry that they did this to you. I know a lot of people were saying, oh, you just don't look the same, blah, 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 about your Achilles. Look, I understand you. I'm having a conversation, just me and you now. I understand. Look, you never really had an opportunity last season to show that, you know, you came back from your Achilles injury. And look, you came back mid-season. No one really expected you to come back full strength right away. You spent this offseason, you spent it rehabbing, you got right. And I noticed that you were out there making plays. The reason that you weren't flashy like everybody else, they didn't target you. You know why? Because you're that freaking good, dude. You're a freaking baller, bro. Nick Needham, baller. Certified baller. I don't care what anybody says. He deserves to make this 53. That is an abomination that he missed this 53-man roster. There was one time he was thrown at this entire preseason in man coverage. Guess what happened? Broke that up, boy. He broke it up. He came back. It was a comeback route. One of the hardest plays to make as a DB, especially one for, you know, doesn't look the same off their Achilles injury. Get out of here, man. Nick Needham, certified baller. I'm sorry you didn't make this abomination. See my boy Gerald Alexander over in Vegas if you want to get a roster spot. If not, come back to our practice squad. We'll take you. Also, you know, Vikings could use some corner guys, and I know you got B-Flow over there, so hopefully you get an opportunity, brother. I really hope for you to do. Otherwise, Ethan Bonner, honestly, he showed up, did some great stuff over the offseason, really improved. You saw that. You saw the flashes. You saw his speed. Storm Duck only allowed 2 catches all preseason on like 15 targets. Given one of them was a touchdown, the other one was a 19-yard throw. But he was a certified baller. I really like Storm Duck. They did give him a lot of guaranteed money. And I think like this may have been a case of they were afraid to lose him on waivers rather than be able to retain him to the practice squad. So I think that was kind of like the decision that they wanted to make there. I'm trying to get inside Greer's mind here as to why he made it over Nick Needham. Because, look, I love Storm Duck. I love Isaiah Johnson. Those guys absolutely balled out in preseason. I'm just trying to think of what made the Dolphins keep them over Nick Needham, because I thought Nick Needham played better. And honestly, Storm Duck, props to you, brother. I think that you just had too many options if the Dolphins were to release you, and so they kept you on. But, you know, props to you. You worked hard, brother. Kendall Fuller knew we were going to... He's our number 2. Kader Kohu knew he was going to make it. Saron Neal was kind of sort of a bubble player, but him being a special teams ace kind of like locked him in. Jalen Ramsey, obviously. Safety is another little bit of a surprise here with Patrick McMorris making the roster. He was our draft pick this year, so kind of looks bad to cut a draft pick. But when you had he was picked before we picked up Marcus May. Like Marcus May, you can't. Like, he was one of the best safeties in the entire league a couple years ago. You have Jordan Poyer, that known injury history. Holland's been a little beat up, so it's nice to have that safety depth. Elijah Campbell can play safety, but he's mostly a special teams guy. He can also play a little bit of corner, so there's that as well for him. But yeah, Marcus May, absolute dog. Patrick McMorris had a really good preseason, ended up being hurt, didn't play in the last one, but excellent preseason besides that. Really hard hitter. Looked like he was going to be pretty good on special teams as well. And speaking of special teams, there's someone missing there. Can y'all tell me who? This was the surprise cut of the entire thing. Why the hell did we cut our long snapper with no other long snapper on roster? I would understand it. Like, look, you look back, John Denny was on the team for 14, 15 years, brought Blake Ferguson in as either a late draft pick or a UDFA, I forget at this time. And then it's like, okay, look, John Denny, meanwhile, you're cheap, meanwhile, you're reliable, meanwhile, you're a fan favorite. We're going to let you go for the young guy over here. But, bro, what? Why are we releasing a long snapper with not a backup on roster? What are we doing? We have to sign one. Unless you're going to convert Andrew Mayer to a long snapper, I don't see the point. I just came up with that live on this video, by the way. Big brain shit. What is the point? Andrew Mayer, look, long snappers are long snappers, centers are centers. I don't... Do we really trust Danny Crossman to convert someone to a long snapper? No. That's disgusting, bro. No. I like Andrew Mayer as a center. I don't know if I want him on special teams. I don't know. Look, I just completely made up that situation in my head. So feel free to clown me in the comments. But yeah, but what are we doing, bro? Where is Blake Ferguson? Why did we waive him? Now, it said waived injured, so I don't know exactly what the context is there. I don't know the extent of his injury, what his injury is. But, like, bro, why are we releasing a long snapper, like, right before the season starts? I don't want to bring someone in that's not in sync with Bailey as the holder and Sanders as the kicker. If you're not in sync, like, that group has to be perfectly in sync in order for you to make a kick. And look, I understand Sanders missed a couple in preseason, including a 58-yarder, but he banged through a different 58-yarder. I don't know, man. That makes no sense to me. So yeah, some of the surprise cuts: Eric Ezukama, Nick Needham. Some of you weren't surprised by Nick Needham. I wish I could say I wasn't surprised, or I was surprised. I really wasn't that much. It's more of a heartbreaker than anything. So yeah, Eric Ezukama, Nick Needham, surprise cuts. Chris Brooks, semi-surprise. Blake Ferguson, absolute blindsided me. Other than that, I didn't really get surprised by anybody else being cut from this roster. I didn't really... there's not any surprises. Now, what I would say to look for as we go forward, what to look for, be on the lookout for wide receivers. That's basic. Like, let's bring you back to it real quick. We have 4 wide receivers. One of them's a 6th-round rookie that didn't look good until the last preseason game. 4 receivers. 3 of them are banged up. The other one was playing in the 4th quarter of a preseason game. Braxton Berrios, banged up. Tyreek Hill, banged up. Jalen Waddle, banged up. Malik Washington, 6th-round rookie that looked like ass until the last preseason game. I do expect to have Tanner Connor out there a lot. I expect to have Jonnu Smith out there a lot. I see a lot of 12 personnel early in the season here without Odell. And I guess Odell would be our 5th receiver. Some options out there, obviously trading for John Mechie. He would be a young receiver to bring into this room. For those of you that are also wondering, Taj Washington is indeed out for the season, so he's not going to be an option this year. I would be on the lookout for guys like John Mechie. Robbie Chosen was just released. He was on the team last year. Not a big fan. Don't really want him back, but he is an option. Same thing with Chase Claypool. He was released from the Bills. Not really a big fan. He would still be an option. You know, guys with familiarity. I'm not sure. Did he make the roster? Trent Sherfield, I'm not sure if he made the roster or not for the Vikings. I will check on that actually right now. So Trent Sherfield did make the Vikings 53-man roster, so he will not be an option, but I was just thinking out loud of Dolphins receivers over the past 3 years. Willie Snead was put on IR, but then released with a injury settlement, so he's an option once he's healthy. Yeah, it's just a mess out there. It really is. Be on the lookout for receivers, though. There's a lot of them out there. I got no words, bro. Eric Izukama being cut. I thought it was a lock once Craycraft got hurt, that he was going to make it, but then he got hurt. So it's crazy out there, man. It's crazy out there for NFL bubble players. Let me know what you guys think about this initial 53 in the comments below. Do you think I'm missing out on someone that I should maybe be, acknowledging, being like, good job that you made the roster, or someone that I'm saying surprise cut? Let me know in the comments below. I'm going to be trying to get you guys videos as we sign practice squad players and claim players off of waivers. Deuces.